You're listening to the Mark Bradford Alchemy for Life podcast.
It's a great movie quote. Well, hey there. Welcome back. In one of my favorite movies ever, the Bishop of Aquila says, "Great storms announce themselves with a single breeze, and a single random spark can ignite the fires of rebellion." Ladyhawke, 1985. It's a great statement, and it really makes you think about the beginning of something, the origin of something, the genesis of something, right? The genesis of something, rather. I mean, it relates to so many things in life. The beginning of an end in a relationship, or a job, or a change in life, or even a health concern. Some little tiny thing announced it. And I could go the direction of being hyper-vigilant about little tiny things. But that's not this podcast. What this podcast is about is the tiny little foundation that so many things come from. When I look back on Alchemy for Life, the very thing that is allowing me to talk to you right now, it all started with balance and me realizing that life had to have balance. And then that turned into, well, what's life made of? Which was answered with, life is made of 3 things. And those 3 things are spent on 5 facets. And thus, Alchemy for Life was born out of these tiny little things. It was a foundation. And when you have a strong foundation, you build an awful lot on it. It's an amazing thing when you create something that then creates other things and is a support structure for other things. I mean, so many things in life are like that, right? In your own world, in your own relationship, a simple connection with someone turns into a relationship that turns into marriage, that turns into the beginning of a family. And now you have a family and grandkids and a legacy, all because of a single moment that you had with one person. And you built upon that because it was a good moment. I've had a number of things like that, like the Alchemy for Life that I described. The status game was the same way. When I realized that all relationships were based on status, the 2 different kinds of status that I talk about in the book. And when I was done writing the status game, I realized I just scratched the surface. And then the status game 2 just came tumbling out, this massive amount of information. It was as if I had kind of decoded an algorithm, which then sort of showed me the way of all that other stuff. And now, shortly, I'm going to be coming out with the status game 3, which sort of is the culmination of what's status, what do you do with it, what are the dashboards, how many dashboards do you have on it? And now that we know all this stuff, how do we actually see them? And that's what the status game 3 is. Sometimes you have a foundation and you still wait for the storm, but you know something's there. 3 Voices was that way. It was supremely obvious to me that we had 3 voices. And when I wrote about the 3 voices and I wrote the book, it was self-contained. Unlike the status game, which turned into 3 books and a card game, or Alchemy for Life, which turned into a weekly podcast, a coaching system, and a book, 3 Voices remained a book. So as you can imagine, there's a part of me that's wondering when something else comes of that. Is that all there is? Is there more to it? I mean, every so often I read and reflect on it, and I know there are extra pieces that I can put in there. There are things in life that I go, oh, that's a second voice thing. That's a first voice thing. I mean, when I talk to people online and otherwise, it's obvious to me that it's a first, second, or third voice thing. And the advice that I give them or the information that I give them, which is found in the book, is really fun and really cool and really applicable. But it's still just one book. And that's really interesting. The Sword and the Sunflower started out as a conversation in my head, which then turned into a poem, which then turned into an outline, which then turned into an epic book, which wasn't done when it was done, which then turned into a trilogy. So why am I telling you this? And, admittedly, these are all mostly book-related things, but that's what I do. I guess I'm telling you this because life isn't just a series of events. Sometimes it's these little breezes, just a raindrop, and you go, uh-oh. Or it's a raindrop and you go, well, that's cool. Or it's an epiphany. Or it's one tiny little thought. I think we sort of learn through life that when we feel that little drop or that breeze, we just ignore it. We go, well, yeah, I know what that means. Okay, there's a storm coming. All right. But I think there's more to life than that. When we really pay attention and actually invest into things and say, okay, you have my attention. Okay, I'm going to think about this. I think things really start to bloom from that. They blossom from that. And I don't want you to toil and wither. I want you to blossom as well. I want you to bloom as well. So let me ask you this. Is there something in your recent past or even not so recent past that sort of came to you as either an epiphany or just something that you noticed, a little drop of water on your skin, if you will? And did you do anything about that? Did something happen in which you thought, you know what? I knew it. I knew it was coming. That's when it started. It may be something really good, or it may unfortunately be something really bad. It could have been the moment you knew someone was cheating on you, or someone didn't love you anymore, or someone had turned to a life of crime or something like that. Or you knew it was over for your job. The writing is on the wall, that kind of thing. But it could have also been a really positive thing. And that's what I'd like to focus on, is something really positive happens. Some little thing happens and you give it its time and you stand back and go, wait a second, let me look at that. Where did that come from? I think it's so important to do that in our life. We have so much data coming into our head. And people like me have a difficult time managing that because I'm aware of so much data, while other people are just like, do. And sometimes I envy that bliss. Mostly I don't. So if there's any takeaway today, I want you to, I want you to think back on times in your life that's happened, and it'll probably be painfully easy for you to come up with the negative ones, because if you see my previous podcast on negativity bias and the thing I'm trying to invent, positivity bias, you'll see why it is so easy to recall the bad stuff. But then for B, I'd like you to think about anything that may have happened recently in which maybe it deserves more attention than you gave it. Maybe you do need to back up, and it's not only just vital for you, it's vital if you have kids. I mean, if you have children and something has come up, they showed a little aptitude for X. Well, that could be the beginning of a career, of a calling, if you just nurture that sort of thing. Or even in your relationship with your person, that you notice something really makes them happy, and to be able to nurture that is just huge. So let's take a step back and not just smell the flowers, but feel the raindrops and see where it goes. Cool? Hi, thanks for listening, and thank you for the feedback as always. I really appreciate that. Want to let you know that The Devil's in the Details will be out soon, but you can read it for free just by checking the link that's included in the email that comes with this. If you're listening and haven't signed up for the list, just go to my website, markbradford.org or Alchemy for Life, and sign up there. Thanks.